There we go.
Okay,
We just got the
now it is
notification.
official. All right, so I will jump in and share my screen. Can you guys all see that? Perfect. All right, so today we're going to be talking about onboarding your B2B team to HubSpot. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit of background of who we are and why we're talking about this. So Emilio and I are both a part of Boundify. We're a demand generation agency located in Greenville, South Carolina. But we're also a HubSpot Gold partner agency. So we lead the demand gen HubSpot user group, and we do, as part of our agency, we do a lot of HubSpot implementations and onboarding and training and all of that. The demand generation and paid media side of things are our bread and butter, what the primary thing we do with our agency. But we do a lot of HubSpot implementations, and so we have experience with teams who are just now starting out with HubSpot and helping them get started with their implementation. So we figured it'd be helpful to do kind of like a overall, it's pretty high level, beginner level uh, event for this, just to kind of touch on the high level points. So my name is Miranda Jenkins, and I'm a demand generation specialist with Boundify. And then Emilio is our managing partner. So, what we'll be talking about is first why we see HubSpot implementations fail, and then onboarding to HubSpot with some of our recommendations, how to leverage HubSpot certifications and checklists, aligning your B2B teams. So, our agency is B2B specifically. So this presentation is through the lens of a B2B organization using HubSpot. And
Miranda,
then,
I was going to tell you that if you are sharing your slide share, we are seeing like still the first
oh,
page.
let's see why.
You probably just want to go to slideshow mode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was in. So I don't, can you see that?
Yes, I now I see the agenda.
And
Mm-hmm.
then if I go into the
If you go
slideshow,
into slideshow, then you will have to share the slideshow because if not, it's gonna get. I think it's gonna get stuck at the.
okay, let's try it again.
Uh-huh.
Like that? I can just keep it out of the,
Yeah.
There you go. That's
there we
good.
go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's great.
All right. So there's our agenda. Aligning your B2B teams and then some long-term adoption and success. And then we'll do the wrap up and Q&A. So why HubSpot implementations fail? Some of the things we've seen with, so typically the clients we get as an agency, they've onboarded to HubSpot and gone through the like HubSpot, the onboarding that is part of your uh, package, when you come onto HubSpot. But then they've still been having trouble with adoption and implementation of the tool. And so then we come on to help, go through the whole process. So some of the reasons that the implementation can fail is if everyone gets full access to the tool on day one. There's no shared definitions of the different objects in HubSpot. One team owns HubSpot in isolation, And then the training for HubSpot isn't structured or purposeful by team. And so ways to prevent it is to have clear roles and ownership from day one. Look into doing a phased rollout instead of just launching everything right from the beginning. Setting up role-based training, and then having a dedicated HubSpot champion. And we'll talk through all these things more in depth.
And while Miranda's presenting, I will be putting some questions on the chat, so I do not interrupt her. One of them, like I'm gonna say out loud the first one, but is one of them is, are you a current, Hubspot user? And if so, is there anything that you're struggling with or that you struggle with when you implement it? I will be curious to know that.
So you may already know, but HubSpot is more than just a CRM or a marketing agent or engine. It's an all-in-one platform that can tie your marketing, sales, and customer success efforts all in one platform. So it's split up into different hubs, and you can think of the hubs as different like sections of the platform. So there's the marketing hub that can help you attract, capture, and nurture leads and tie it to marketing activity within the platform, like your social media efforts, email marketing, things like that. And then there's the sales hub that enables sales teams to manage their deals, track sales activities, and prioritize prospects. So you're setting up your lead pipeline and your deal pipeline all within HubSpot. And then there's the service hub that gives customer success teams the area to manage tickets and customer communications. And then the CMS hub allows you to optimize conversion-focused websites that connect to the CRM. So you might have access to whatever your HubSpot I can't think of the word I'm looking for. The level of HubSpot you have for your portal, you might have access to some of these hubs, but not other ones. But you can think about them, separated in those buckets with those purposes for your team. So not every team is going to be accessing every HubSpot feature from all of those different hubs. Some example HubSpot features that specific teams will use more than others. For demand gen or marketing, they'll use the content feature a lot. That includes all your forms, landing pages, website pages. The marketing section has all of your ads, the marketing email, social, and then the CRM segments or lists in HubSpot. Sales, you'll use the sales dashboard a lot, the CRM that breaks down your contacts, companies, leads, and deals, and then reports and dashboards for sales. So this is just kind of to outline and show that not every person from every team needs to have access to every part of HubSpot. And so when you're doing onboarding, when you split it out in terms of your different teams, it can help kind of narrow the focus of the training that team needs, specific to what they're actually going to be using and doing in HubSpot. So to do that, right from the beginning, you can define the roles and teams in your HubSpot portal. So if you go to settings, users and teams, and create team, you can outline the team from the very beginning. For B2B companies, the ones that are usually the most relevant is having a demand gen or marketing team, a sales team, a customer success team, and a RevOps or admin team. And again, because each of them uses HubSpot a little bit differently, not everyone needs the same access, especially right from the beginning. So identifying the teams and the different roles and kind of customizing access from there can help you kind of streamline your onboarding. Another thing we recommend is doing a phased onboarding. So you don't have to launch every part of HubSpot right from the very beginning and give everyone access from day one. We recommend thinking through the following 3 phases. So first would be building the foundation of the platform. So that's where you'd have kind of your HubSpot admin, the person from your team who's heading up your HubSpot implementation, and then maybe also your HubSpot champion, which we'll talk through what that entails. So it would just be kind of that smaller core team who's heading up the implementation project. And that's when you'd be inviting your team members into the platform, setting up their roles, setting up the teams, providing the access they need, and kind of auditing the core objects in HubSpot, your CRM setup, connecting your ad accounts, connecting email addresses, all of that. And then phase 2 would be enablement, and that's where you're walking through the platform with your team members. They'll be completing their role-based training and certifications and starting to get familiar with the platform. And then lastly, phase 3 would be like full adoption, where they're working in the platform, providing you feedback, and you're making optimization changes to make sure everything's working for your specific business case. So identifying a HubSpot champion can be really helpful with a new platform. So what that looks like is you'll identify a person on your team from the very beginning who can kind of head up the implementation. You can invest in their training from the very beginning and kind of get them to a point where they feel not like a HubSpot pro, they don't have to know everything about it, but kind of have a picture of where everything is in HubSpot, how it works, how you're going to be using HubSpot for your specific business case. And they're kind of like the go-to person for when your team starts adopting the platform. And as they have questions, there's that one person that they can go to ask anything HubSpot related. And then, of course, in the beginning, your HubSpot champion is then probably going to have to, do some research to find the answers and maybe even reach out to your HubSpot contact to find the answer. But it just helps kind of align everything and have everything going through one person.
I will compliment there that you will hear in the marketplace this person sometimes being called a person from operations. So it can be marketing operations or sales operations or and when it's all the hubs, it's usually called revenue operations because the other way that I love to present this role, even if it's not a person that only does that or do that, is it's a person, it's an IT resource for client-facing processes, right? Marketing, sales, and service. So obviously for smaller organizations, maybe it's not a full-time job, but if you have to put it somewhere, sometimes it's your specialist, right? The person that is in charge of marketing for the department or the back-end person for sales. Sometimes it's more from the IT, the person that handles your website and other softwares. But it has to have that component or that point of view of client-facing processes. That's a typical recommendation.
Awesome. So you're in the platform, you've invited your teams, created, their roles and the teams and everything. So now moving into enablement. One feature in HubSpot that can be really helpful for starting to train your teams is the HubSpot checklist feature. So if you kind of hover over your profile image in the right-hand corner and it brings up that drop-down menu, you'll see the projects or checklists area at the very bottom. And on there, you can create and assign HubSpot projects by team. So they're essentially a checklist. You can see the screenshot right there of what it looks like. Um, and you can use pre-created HubSpot templates, or you can create your own using steps from different templates, or you can use like a pre-built one and then edit it from there. But it's basically like a project list for your teams, and it goes in order of the steps they'll need to take in HubSpot to properly set up what they need to be doing, and then also start to kind of get some training on where everything is, how everything works. So you can assign it by individual users, or you can assign it by a team. So if you created like your marketing team, your sales team, customer success team, you can create a default checklist and assign it to everyone for the marketing team. But it gives you that customization to make sure that um, the training that they're getting is role based, like we were saying, where you're prioritizing the things in HubSpot that they're going to be using the most. Another thing is the HubSpot Academy. It's a great resource. It has a lot of really good information. Their video lessons, and then they have full certification courses. And similarly, you can create a playlist and assign it by teams or users for their all of the information they need for training. The playlist can consist of the full certification course, but then you can also add in individual lessons from other courses. And so you can kind of tailor it to be what they need to know. We put some examples of some of the HubSpot courses or lessons that we think are the most helpful by team. So they're linked in the slide deck, and the slide deck and the recording will be updated on the event page after the event wraps up. So you can actually click on them and go to it and add it to your playlists.
I want to compliment there that projects with playlists from the academy are a very powerful combo. Sometimes not that clear for especially for the owner or the CEO, because allows you to help your champion to get trained without you being an expert on the platform, right? Something that Miranda was commenting on the projects is that not only they are scheduled in a way that you can accomplish some goals, business goals, like I want to nurture my leads, I want to report on the sales process, but also each of the tasks have links explaining how do you accomplish what you're supposed to do, and is updated. So it is a great training resource. And as I was telling on the chat, also a great way to put in practice what you learn on the academy, because the academy is great for learning in theory, the exam, the certifications, but how do you put in practice so you don't forget? Projects will help you accomplish that. And finally, playlists, the great thing about it is that the academy nowadays has so many certifications and so many resources that it's very hard to know, well, what I'm supposed to learn first. So leverage the playlist that come by default on the academy based on role, because that way you don't have to know all the things that your champion has to learn about depending on the area. You just have to know what area is that you want to train someone on, right? If you want to be my marketing operations person, well, there's a couple of playlists that you can leverage to become more proficient at that. And all of them have both theory about the department or the function, right? What are the best practices on marketing? It doesn't matter that you're using Hubspot or not. And how do you get proficient at doing marketing with Hubspot, which is the other part that you want to learn as well.
Mhm. And it has like the, search feature too. So you can search topic based, what you're looking for, and then it'll bring up the certifications and individual lessons that match that search query. All right. So moving into like more long-term adoption of the tool. Before you start to scale your HubSpot and fully use it, we definitely recommend that you take some time to align your individual teams from the very beginning on some of the following items. So number one is having shared lifecycle definitions. So outlining from the very beginning across your marketing, your sales, your customer success team. What are the definitions of a lead for us? What's a marketing qualified lead? What's a sales qualified lead? What is a customer? And making sure that everyone's working off the same definition. Second is setting up clear handoffs between teams. So knowing from the very beginning when does a lead go from being a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead? Once it's a sales qualified lead, how fast is the sales team going to follow up? Another example was from sales to customer success. What context does the customer success need from the sales team once the deal has closed? Where is that going to live in HubSpot? And all of those handoffs should be outlined, defined, and then also visible and trackable in HubSpot. And the way you can do that is by setting up through the like automations when you set up your lead and deal pipeline. You can, define the requirement for what's needed for it to go from one stage to the next. And then off of that, the other thing is to make sure that you have one source of truth for your pipeline. Your leads and your deals should live in HubSpot from day one and avoid tracking them anywhere else. If you have, spreadsheets and all that, your pipelines in HubSpot should be your source of truth. This is an example of the like default lead pipeline stages that are in HubSpot. So you'll have default stages for your lead pipeline and your deal pipeline. Those can be customized. So take some time to review, how the lead process is set up and how the deal process is set up. And there might be opportunity where it makes sense for your business and the way you think about leads and your team thinks about the stages for leads and stages for deals to change the title of a stage, remove some stages, add some stages. Just keep in mind that your stages should have a clear definition and clear naming convention that your team, understands what that stage consists of. And then it also should always have a clear exit criteria. So it's, there's no question on if the lead has, moved from one stage to the next.
Question, please.
Mhm.
So the exit criteria, you've sort of got it. My question is, I'm all about defining a sales process,
Mhm.
from a suspect to a prospect to a
Mhm.
qualified lead, etc. Um, Typically, what I've done before, as far as a pipeline, is assigned percentage confidence levels, where I
Mhm.
could take the value of a deal times my confidence level, and that gives me sort of a net amount of dollars in my pipeline. Because I think it's a
Mhm.
little misleading to put 100% of a large project in if you're in the early stage. So how do you reflect that? How do you assign percentage confidence levels at each stage in the process?
Yeah. So HubSpot does have that percentage set up, which Emilio, if you want to jump in, I'm trying to remember exactly what it's called.
Yeah,
The
that's a
percentages
fantastic
that.
question, Dana. I want to break it down into first answering your question and then going back to what Miranda is showing, which is slightly different. So yes, you have an object in HubSpot called deals, and that object have stages, and in those stages, that's where you can say, well, first stage, I usually for B2B, I call it discovery, some
Mhm.
sort of discovery event. Um, and at each of the stages, you can put a percentage on the probability of closing the deal. It's part of the system. Allows you to calculate confidence, but also allows you, if you're putting the amount of the deal, to kind of like evaluate how big if your pipeline is based on those percentages. So yeah, definitely a best practice. However, the other thing that is slightly different for is less and less so on implementations nowadays. But the other thing that is sometimes miss is that HubSpot, while a CRM, is a place where three departments are sharing a common database, the knowledge about their, your prospects or suspects and current opportunities and current clients. So what Miranda was showing on the other one is in the other slide are the stages that you use for the buyer rather than the stages of the deal that you might have with a person or with a company. So this is very important because that way you have interfaces and align the team among the different groups to say, while all the data will be shared by the three departments, we have clear expectations of what we are supposed to do, each of the departments, depending on the stage that we have that buyer internally, right? If you say, well, this company, usually companies, not only contacts, is currently a lead, it means that it's not a client of us. So usually most of the efforts will be from the marketing side. And once a company becomes a customer, that doesn't mean that marketing will not communicate anymore, but it will change how marketing communicates with the customer because now obviously we have a business in common, and also how sales communicate because if you have a second or third deal, you will be drawing from the previous experience that you had. So I think the comment that Miranda is doing here is super important because these stages define what each department is going to do depending on the stage of the buyer. And as you said, specifically for deals, you want to use percentages on the sales hub. Mhm.
Thanks for that additional detail.
Yeah, love it.
So it's just some you know, items to keep in mind to encourage long-term adoption from your team. Number one is to have clear processes. So document and standardize how your teams are going to use HubSpot for core activities. This is great to have before, the team is onboarded on to help with training. But we understand that that sometimes can be unrealistic, especially if your admin and HubSpot champion are also still learning how to use, but definitely create them as you go along to have a clear outline of what to do. Keep them simple from the beginning, and then evolve them and edit them from time over time as you start to learn like how to use HubSpot for your specific use case. Again, like we mentioned, identify internal champions. So having that HubSpot champion, if your business is large enough, then it makes sense to have a HubSpot champion per team. But if you're a small organization, then you can just have one overall champion, but really invest in their training and support, them from the beginning to give them all the tools they need to be that champion of the platform. Identify adoption KPIs. So we recommend using KPIs to identify your enablement needs and gaps in the beginning, so you can see where your team may need more support. Um, and that can be, something that's assigned to the champion of each team to track the usage metrics in the platform to make sure that the team is actually adopting it how you want them to be. And then lastly, ongoing optimization. So it's a process where you have to continuously refine your CRM properties, refine your workflows, create new workflows, reporting dashboards, all of that based on your actual usage and feedback from your team. And remember, you don't need everything all at once. You can kind of set up the bare bones of what you need and then refine it from there. And then at the very end, we just have some links to some HubSpot resources, kind of reinforcing everything that we talked about. And then our next demand generation hug event, which will be HubSpot pipeline setup, setting up your stages, automations, and forecasting accuracy. And that'll be in May. So I can jump out and stop sharing my screen and we can kind of go through if you guys have any questions. I can jump into the platform and show you anywhere, in the back end of HubSpot of anything you want more explanation on. Any questions?
Time of day on the May 14th seminar. Was that, did you
It'll be at 10 a.m. again. Yeah, we usually keep the same time and we do it every 2 months.
10 a.m. Eastern?
Mhm.
So plus 5 hours, Emily.
Mhm.
By by that time. Emily, you probably know we turned clocks forward last weekend, so we only have 4 hours difference to the UK. So it's normally five.
Mhm.
The 29th, I want to say, is when our
Yeah,
clocks exchange.
yeah. I
Oh,
think
okay.
UK and Europe turn their clocks forward a few weeks after we do. So
Yeah.
Awesome. No questions?
No questions?
well, the certifications you mentioned on the self-paced learning and the different elements that you have in the academy,